The virtual summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Xi Jinping and Shehbaz Sharif. I mean, imagine that. And we played those visuals out as well. Xi Jinping and Shehbaz Sharif listening to Prime Minister Modi talk. I mean, those optics were so powerful as well. I mean, I understand I'm an Indian, I'm looking at my Prime Minister talk at the SCO summit, the virtual summit, but to look at Sharif and Xi Jinping watching, this is how the Times of India has put it. Sharif and Xi watching, Modi tells SCO, slam those backing terror. This is how the Indian Express has put it. Xi and Shehbaz listening. PM says, can't have double standards on terrorism. But more importantly, you know what, Varghese, I was looking at this particular segment where the economic, pact that was being signed by various countries, it said it had a lot of Beijing overtone to that economic pact, which is why India has not signed that economic pact.
Because you see, Beijing has been trying to go beyond its borders. It's been trying to circumvent the Malacca Straits through its Belt and Road initiatives, and Beijing has been trying to move into Central Asia to Europe, so that it can have a land route to Europe, and it wants to minimize its dependence on the sea routes, because it is very vulnerable when it comes to the sea routes. That is why China has been trying to avoid the sea routes when it comes to trade, and has been investing heavily on its Belt and Road initiative, so that the movement of goods is not affected by any kind of blockade. But as you rightly pointed out, you see all the Tribune has also been call out nations backing terror. PM at SCO's meet. Sharif listening, says respect integrity of its members, and let me read out what he said. In fact,
how about we listen to the Prime Minister
actually
first?
Yeah, we have that.
Let's quickly listen into the Prime Minister. We've got a quick small reaction for everybody, a little recap for those who missed out what the Prime Minister said yesterday. Let's listen in.
Excellency, आतंकवाद क्षेत्रीय एवं वैश्विक शांति के लिए प्रमुख खतरा बना हुआ है। हम चुनौती से निपटने के लिए निर्णायक कार्रवाई आवश्यक है। आतंकवाद चाहे किसी भी रूप में हो, किसी भी अभिव्यक्ति में हो, हमें इसके विरुद्ध मिलकर लड़ाई करनी होगी। कुछ देश क्रॉस बॉर्डर टेररिज्म को अपनी नीतियों के इंस्ट्रूमेंट के रूप में इस्तेमाल करते हैं, आतंकवादियों को पनाह देते हैं। एससीओ को ऐसे देशों की आलोचना में कोई संकोच नहीं करना चाहिए। ऐसे गंभीर विषय पर दोहरे मापदंड के लिए कोई स्थान नहीं होना चाहिए।
Those are the words of the Prime Minister, with Xi Jinping listening, with Shehbaz listening. But India has refused to back Xi's BRI project. Vladimir Putin, who was in attendance, he raised Wagner's mutiny and thanked the SEO leaders for support. He says, this is what the Indian Express has put out. Days after the failed armed mutiny by the Russian mercenary Wagner group, Russian President Vladimir Putin thanked the SEO leaders for expressing their support for the Russian leadership in defending the constitutional order, lives and security of its citizens. I don't remember that happening anywhere, but I mean, he's still thanking them, so they've welcomed it seems. Participating in the SEO leaders, this summit hosted by PM Narendra Modi, being held in virtual mode, Putin said Russia will continue to resist external pressure, sanctions and provocations. On the other hand, India has refused to back Xi's BRI project. It says there's a lot of Beijing overtones, and economically tackling the dragon is something that India has made a priority over the last half a decade or so.
Well, it's not only about terror that India has made about priority. It's about those who sponsor terror. See, terrorism is the symptom of those who have a motivation, and that is what India has been calling out. And it's about cross-border terror that the Prime Minister was speaking about as well. When it comes to trade as well, the Prime Minister has said that you have to respect the integrity of the member countries. Speaking about the Belt and Road initiatives move through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. So the already through a disputed area, you are building infrastructure. So Beijing has been told clearly that you shouldn't, you shouldn't just bypass the concerns of countries that are already having disputes in certain parts of its territories. So that is also being highlighted over here. So the Prime Minister was blunt in what he wanted to say and what India wanted to say in the SEO Summit.
Foreign policy today in these times has become so popular, hasn't it? I mean, you've got Dr. S. Jaishankar and the Prime Minister as poster boys of India's foreign policy, and I think foreign policy is attracting the youth of the country as well. Foreign policy is, because the optics are so great. I mean, the Prime Minister at a state visit in the United States, on the way back, goes to Egypt,
India's diplomacy
Papua New Guinea,
Yeah.
and Fiji, extending their highest honors, civilian
Kabir,
honors.
it's not only that. India's diplomacy is no longer sugar-coated. It's on your face.
It's hard hitting. It's to
hard
the
hitting.
point.
This is our interest. You will have to listen to it, or which means you are against us or for us. That's simple as that. And we are just making it, stated out over there.
Well, India's foreign policy and the Belt and Roads Initiative, a big no on that, and a big no for all those sponsoring terrorism. That's the big message by the Prime Minister.